Hello there, and welcome to this slightly different video concerning the old world. Too many ums and ers already. What an idiot! This is great content, isn't it? Some bloke arguing with himself. Anyway, so my history is I started playing Warhammer Fantasy. I think just before or just after 4th ed came out. I can't remember whether that came out when I started or just anyway around about the time 4th ed came out. I kind of gave it up around about 7th because family and work and all the rest sort of got in the way and became a bit of a priority. And then I started playing competitive AOS a few years ago now, like 5 or 6 years ago. I've done okay. I've podiumed at a few events. I just don't really have the time or the budget to really compete with the meta, really. It's more the time to paint all those minis. I mean, I'm a pretty quick painter. I did a few commissions back in the day, but I'm not a very good painter. I'm just very good at painting the same model over and over again and quite quickly. However, it still does take a lot of time, even with stuff like slap. I love the fact that people think slap chop's a new thing. It's like I was doing that decades ago, but hey ho. You just used to have to make your own version of contrast paints with like normal paints and inks. I mean, and a bit of what do you call it? Flow improver. Anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. This is a video by a YouTube channel called Mini Wargaming. They provide some excellent content in terms of battle reports. They're very frequent flyers. They've posted quite a few battle reports. And what I'm planning to do is go through this battle, highlight some potential tactical deficiencies and some stuff he could have done better, comment on where they've got the rules wrong and what they should have done instead. I think I'm not throwing shade. I'm not saying, that Luca, who's taking charge of the Skaven, firstly, he's giving the bloke a bit of an easy ride because Luca knows how to play the game and has been for, years and years and years. The other bloke has come on to promote his movement trays, which you can see in the corner of the screen here. I think these are wicked. It's it's a very good idea. I'll probably end up buying some rather than rebasing some of my collections. Warriors of Chaos I'll definitely put back on square bases, but these guys, I think this is quite good. So you can use models in AOS and also certainly for my demons, these movement trays will be really useful because then I can use them in fantasy and 40k and AOS. So that's pretty cool. Anywho, it's a 1,500 point game. So I'm not, back to what I said, I'm not throwing shade at all. What this demonstrates really, and we're using it as a learning opportunity really, is that the game is really complicated and there are certain nuances to the game that make it, quite difficult to understand. So the fact that these guys who are really, really good at it, very seasoned, get little things wrong shows how complicated it is. And the point I'd make really before I start is that if people get stuff wrong, just forgive them, because people don't get stuff wrong on purpose. I've gone to loads of tournament games. I've only really ever encountered, out of the tens, if not hundreds, not thousands, but hundreds of games I've played at tournaments, I don't think that, I think I can, off the top of my head, I can think of 2 games, which is a very low percentage, where the opponent was actively cheating. Most of the time, people just cock stuff up and misread rules.
Old warp lightning cannon.
I love that warp lightning cannon. It's incredibly phallic. But yeah, I love that. I had so many of them when I was Skaven. I sold them all though. So the Skaven list is quite straightforward. There's 2 big blocks of clan rats. There's 2 rattling guns. Love them. The Storm Vermin. He's got a Claw Lord. He's got a level 1 wizard. The Seraphon player has no magic. Presumably to keep it easy, because this is this guy's first game of Warhammer Fantasy ever. He's normally a 40k player, but he's got an Old Blood Uncarnosaur, which does exactly what you'd expect it to. He's got some Saurus Cav, which are I think from the looks of this game, they're a lot more heavy hitting than you think they might be. So they seem pretty good. Saurus Warriors seem a bit naff, actually, looking at what they manage here. So this is the bit where they talk about the movement trays and stuff like that. Okay, and then let's fast forward to this bit, because why is it taking so long to download to do that? I've downloaded it, haven't I? Yeah, I've downloaded it. Bloody thing. Why are we buffering for a downloaded video?
This turn, and you might as well do the other unit. Well, they are going to
be stupid.
They're going to be stupid.
So what they're doing now is rolling for stupidity. That happens at the start. So in your command phase, I think, command sub phase of the strategy phase. Basically, the new Warhammer Fantasy 9th edition, there are 4 phases to the game. Every phase has 4 sub phases. The first 2 phases, you sort of declare everything and then do everything and then declare like the whole army. The shooting phase and the combat phase, you pick one unit at a time, but that unit must work through the steps, or that combat must work through the steps in a linear fashion. So it's very kind of structured. Anyway, what he's doing now is he's rolling for stupidity. So if a model has stupidity at basically the start of your turn, you've got to roll 2d6. If you roll over that unit's leadership characteristic, then it is stupid, and all it can do is move, or in fact all it must do, if we're strictly reading the rules, is move a normal move directly forwards. No reforms, no other manoeuvres, just sort of trundles forwards.
So what that means for a Cold Wind Rider unit, the new stupidity rules are, if you fail it, you cannot charge or march, and you move in a straight line forward. But
T's important.
So they move 7. Not these guys, but the other ones over there are going to move 7 forward. Which brings us to the movement phase. Do you have any charges to declare?
I do not.
Yeah, no charges to declare. So we're going to be right back, but these guys are just going to walk into the woods, I guess, and then we'll show you where the rest of the elements of the list end up as well. Because the first turn, nothing too dynamic really happens. And we're done. So what happened here, John? What did we do?
So we moved.
Okay, so they've made a slight mistake here. Let's pause it with a bit of better picture. There we go. So they've made a slight mistake here. There is one tiny rules nerd, sort of, if you're one of those like me, that'll just sort of slightly trigger you, is the new rule is that your banner must be in the middle at the front of the unit. Okay, so he's got it right here. He's got it right here. That's a new rule about command groups. You don't get to pick where the banner goes. It goes in the front at the middle. Here, he's got the banner in the second rank. It shouldn't be. It should be one of the front ranks. So it should probably be banner and champion in the front rank of this unit. Anyway, that's a very pedantic point. The issue that he's done, and actually I think he's done himself a bit of a disservice, really, because he's moved this Carnosaur forward to stop them from having to move forwards. Okay, now 7 inches would take them to about there, realistically. So like they'd still be in heavy cover because the unit would almost certainly be totally obscured. So they're not, you're not going to be able to shoot, because that's -2 to hit in shooting. So that's not going to, he'd have probably wanted to do that anyway. So I'm not sure why he decided to block it. The point and why this is wrong, though, is because stupidity, and it specifically says in the stupidity section in the rule book that the stupid units move in the compulsory moves part of the phase. Okay, so going to the movement phase, it has 4 sub phases. One is declare charges and do charge reactions. Step 2 is move charges. So you declare all your charges, you do all the charge reactions, you then roll your charge moves and move your charges, either you make contact or it's a failed charge or whatever. Then sub phase 3 is move compulsory movers. Move compulsory movers are stuff like stupidity or stuff with random movement, or otherwise models that move in the compulsory movement part of the movement sub phase. That's really complicated, isn't it? I'm struggling off the top of my head to think of anything other than stupidity. So, for instance, you know, a frenzied unit that had to charge, or an impetuous unit that had to charge, has already moved in the move charges phase, okay? So they don't move in the compulsory move phase. I'm not sure what else might have to move in the compulsory move phase. It's definitely stuff with random movement, and it's definitely stuff with something that's failed a stupidity check. Step 4 is move remaining moves, okay? So this is a remaining move, so it can't happen before the stupid models move. So the stupid models should trundle forwards, and then he can do what he likes with the Carnosaur.
Sorry, boys, up, and we wheeled and then moved another 2 inches to get around the building.
Yep.
We moved the other Saurus warriors just straight up with the banner bearer.
Right behind him.
My big leader on the Brontodon here, or the Carnosaur,
Yeah.
saw that his friends were being stupid, so I wheeled him and then moved him to block the movement so that the cavalry doesn't end up just marching straight into the forest.
Yep, because with stupidity, they have to do these guys move 7, they have to do a full 7-inch move forward, but you have to follow the normal rules for movement. You'd stop between a movable
Why does
object
he start
or
getting into
other
combat?
units of your army.
Right, okay.
So you're going to take another rattling gun to the face, maybe. So his movement currently 6 because of the difficult terrain, so he's rolled an 8, and then we're fighting. And then these guys have to move forward 7. Those guys have to move forward 7. And we'll see where the other 2 units end up going as well.
He then failed
Go to the
stupidity
top
with both of the
stairs, and
Saurus
over
Cav in the
here,
same time. That's
the
horrible.
Scar veteran is going to stand in front of these guys, so they just stay away. 1!
Oh!
I think you have a 4-up save because you have heavy armor and a shield. There's 2 hits, and these are strength 4, so they wouldn't be on 4s because they're the same.
I just want to hear him.
Anyways.
I call you out, small rat.
Right, so he's
Here.
calling a challenge.
When units charge, they get +1 to their initiative characteristic for every 1 inch they charged, up to a maximum of +3 in the front, +4 in the sides, and +5 in the rear. In this case, the Saurus are going first. They are initiative 5, I think, on the charge because they're 2 base. Gosh, that Saurus are initiative 1. I forgot. They are not the fastest. Skaven are initiative 4 base, so we're going to be fighting at the same time. One of us is better at fighting than the other, though.
This combat's a really good example of where little things can make big differences, okay? And have a big impact later on down the game. So, the thing that he's not read is that thrusting spears, not only do they fight in an extra rank, unless they charge, so both units have thrusting spears, which are one-handed weapons, so you can use them over a shield. You can fight in an extra rank unless you charge. So these 5 Saurus do not get supporting attacks, okay? Because that unit of Saurus is just charged. These 6 get their full attacks because they're in the fighting rank and they're in base contact. These 6 only get a supporting attack. Now, it doesn't really matter because they've all got 1 attack. However, if these units in the front have 2 attacks, like the Saurus do, so for instance, if we look at the Saurus, if we pretend the Saurus hadn't charged, they'd have 10 attacks in the front rank, an extra 1 for the champion, and 5 supporting attacks. So supporting attacks don't get their full complement of attacks, they just get 1. However, you know, that's 5 more attacks. These Skaven all have 1 attack each apart from the champion. The other thing that thrusting spears do is when you get charged, you get +1 initiative. You really need to read the italic, the sort of slanted letters underneath all the weapons descriptions, because that's where it explains this particular rule. So what's happened is the Saurus have charged in, they add 3 to their initiative because they made a charge move of 3 inches or greater. Your initiative bonus is how much you actually move. It's not the dice roll, it's how much you actually... So if you're only an inch away, you only get an inch move. You can't wheel an inch and then wheel another inch and call it 2. No. Because you have to move directly. The charging movement section says you have to move directly in as direct line as possible towards the charging units. There's no faffing around for extra inches, sadly. Yeah, so you have to move directly forward. So it's how much you move. If you hit them in the flank or the rear, you get an extra inch. So it's not 5 plus 5 max in the rear. It's plus 4. That's I don't know whether that was a thing in previous editions, but yeah, you get more combat resolution points for charging in the rear. So that's probably what is confusing. Like, there's an extra thing in the rear. Well, not for initiative bonus. So the Saurus are 1 base initiative. They add 3 because of the movement, because of how far the Saurus moved, because it was more than 3. So they become initiative 4. The clan rats are already initiative 4, but they've got thrusting spears and they have been charged. So actually, the clan rats are initiative 5 and therefore fighting first.
Our champions are lined up against each other, but would you like to issue a challenge with yours anyways?
I call you out, small rat.
Well, brave Sir Clan Rat, the paw leader, will accept it, I guess. Because why not? It don't matter. Well, it does matter, but I like it anyways. So we'll do your Saurus champion into my Clan Rat first.
Just as a general principle,
3 attacks.
I think that challenges are pretty much you should automatically issue a challenge, like, unless it's a really terrible idea. Regardless, actually, of whether you're the monster going into the unit or the unit going into the monster, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, if you're the monster going into the unit and the unit's pretty nasty, you want to limit the amount of damage you can get done back. So you can wail on an individual character, cause it as many wounds as it's got on its profile, and then you get +5 to overkill for the combat resolution, for the combat result. So you can win a combat by just absolutely pounding a champion into the ground. And then that also stops the unit, because you're in a challenge, from being able to wail on you back, especially if they're nasty. Now, if I was charging my Chaos Lord on Manticore into a load of clan rats, I probably wouldn't issue a challenge, because I'm almost certainly going to kill more than 6 clan rats throughout the entirety of the combat. And yeah, they're not very... I mean, they're hitting me on 5s. They're wounding me on, I think, 5s. Or, no, the strength 3. So they're wounding me on 6s. Like... They're not going to do anything, even with like 12 attacks, like 4 would hit and then 1 might wound, and then I've got 3. So they're not going to hurt me. So I wouldn't do it with that kind of imbalance. However, in general, issuing challenges is a really good idea, especially if you reckon the unit can chip off a couple of wounds. Because characters don't have that many wounds, right? So you just don't want to roll bad with your character and losing silly wounds to silly units when you can actually just win the combat with overkill. Like, imagine if you've got a Chaos Lord on a dragon that's flown into a unit of ogres, issue a challenge, because worst case scenario, they refuse the challenge and then the champion falls back and can't fight, so they've just lost a load of attacks, and you know, they can't be replaced in that combat either, so they've literally lost a chunk of attacks from the front rank. But anyway, going back to initiative, the Skaven champion, because he has a thrusting spear and was charged, is initiative 5, which is better than the Saurus's 4 now, and should have gone first, and that matters.
Hitting me on 4s because we're the same weapon skill. That is 2 hits, and these are strength 4, so they wouldn't be on 3s with thrusting spears. 1 wound. I have light armor and a shield, so I have a chance to save on a 5-up. He does not. He is dead. However, it's the same initiative, so he can try and hit you back. I only have 2 attacks. I also have a thrusting spear. Oh, I got 2 hits though.
Oh.
I need... That's a drop die. I need 5s to wound you because you have a higher toughness than my strength. 1!
Oh.
I think you have a 4-up save because you have heavy armor and a shield. Alright, can you make a 4-up? No! Our champion's...
So, as you see, the Skaven champion should have killed the Saurus champion and not died, because the Saurus champion would have fought after the Skaven champion.
Killed each other at the same time.
Oh, dang.
Imagine being a Saurus champion dying by a rat. So your champion's right there. We'll get him out of there. And you'll have 4 other Saurus attacking for 8 attacks. 4s and 3s. That's not a great roll.
That's a terrible roll, yeah.
That is 1 wound. I have a 5-up save on a rat. Nope, that's a dead rat. I'm just going to pull from the back because they're all fighting at the same time. My rats get to fight back. I'll have 5 from the front rank against all the same initiative. And I do get the supporting attacks because I also have thrusting spear. So I have quite a bit of attacks, but I need 5s to wound. Of my 11 attacks, I hit...
So, weirdly, he does have 11 attacks, but not for the reason he said. Let's go back and look at the unit, okay? So, I'm pointing at the screen. That's a stupid idea. You can't see me. So, you can see my... hopefully see my mouse cursor. I don't know how to make it, like, brighter or more, you know, thingy, or draw on the screen or something. Anyway, so the Skaven player should have gone first. The champion fought in the challenge, killed their champion, and then he would have the front 5 and 6 supporting attacks. So he should have 11 attacks. However, the way he's playing it is that 2 are dead, so that's 2 from the fighting rank are dead, and therefore he should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know where he's got that extra attack from, but he was 12 and 2 died. Now, I've seen some people play it where essentially because this model here steps up into that hole and that model there steps up into that hole, which is, it didn't actually die there, it died there. Because this model then steps up here and this model, the models that step up into the second rank don't get their supporting attacks. That's actually wrong. There is a section in the rule book called excess deaths that explains it pretty clearly, actually. It's just not it's just not next to supporting attacks, which oh gosh, where has it gone? So it's under page 150, excess casualties, sorry, I was thinking of stupid deaths. It says it can sometimes happen that a unit suffers more casualties than it has models in its fighting rank. Should this happen, casualties are removed as normal, representing casualties caused in the rank or file behind the fighting rank. In such cases, and if the unit suffering the casualties is able to make the supporting attacks, any excess casualties will reduce the number of supporting attacks. So stepping forward, which is essentially the act of replacing the champion, it says there is a note here, a model cannot attack during a phase in which it stepped forward into the fighting rank. However, any models that remain in the fighting rank after casualties have been removed are more likely to be in base contact, having closed in upon them. Okay? So what that means is, for instance, in this combat, let's say the Saurus fought first and the champion died because they allocated attacks to him, and another one died, and there was like a few over here on the overlap. The ones on the fighting rank could be removed to replace the ones that you've lost in the middle, and they would now get their full attacks rather than their supporting attack, okay? Any that step forwards into the fighting rank don't get to attack, okay? But that any models stepping forwards into the second rank or the third rank in some cases do still get supporting attacks. So models that step into ranks, it's only if a model steps forward into the fighting rank that it loses its attacks. Okay? I know that's a bit complicated, but it basically means, and putting it very simply, in order to stop all 12 of these attacking, you have to kill all 12. If you killed 9, you'd still get 3 supporting attacks. You won't get anything from the front rank, you still get 3. So, for instance, with this Saurus unit, if you charge it with, for instance, I don't know, some Chaos Knights, and they kill 7 of them, so the front 5 wouldn't be able to attack. These 2 wouldn't be able to attack, but these 3 would still get supporting attacks, okay? They wouldn't step forward and then get 2 attacks, they'd just get their 1 supporting attack. I know that's a bit complicated and nuanced, but that's what should happen. Now, what actually should have happened is that a couple of Saurus die, as it turned out, and I think the Saurus terrible dice rolling kind of made up for everything anyway. So this, actually, the result looks about right.
Spear, so I have quite a bit of attacks, but I need 5s to wound. Of my 11 attacks, I hit 3, 4, 5 times, and I wound once. I have a 4-up save, and you take it. Random source dies, so gonna go ahead and just fill in the gaps here. Neither one of us have champions anymore. That's great. We're gonna go through combat resolution now. So in this case, you have 1 complete rank of 4 models, so you'll get +1 to your combat resolution. You killed 2 stinky rats, so +2 to your combat resolution. You got yourself a loud and high banner for 4, and they are in the closed order formation, so they're gonna go to 5 combat resolution. That should be all the relevant modifiers here. There are more to it, but not in this particular example. My combat resolution, I have a rank, so I have a banner myself. I'm also closed order. I killed 2 Saurus, and I unfortunately have 3 ranks, so I will end up winning that by 2, because...
So the Skaven player has 3 ranks because they have a special rule called Horde. Now, Horde means that you get to claim an extra rank for rank bonus purposes. They also have another special rule called Warband, which means they get to enhance their leadership by their current rank bonus. And because their general is just off screen here, you can just about see the edge of his base, is within 12 inches, they can use Inspiring Presence to use the general's leadership, which is 7. So actually, that unit's leadership 10. However, once you start losing ranks, it soon disappears.
Someone rolled really bad. Oh, you need to do a leadership check, and there's several things to explain here. You roll 2d6 for me, and I'll go through it here. You want to roll.
This is actually a very good explainer and a very good way of doing it.
Great.
But your battle standard bearer is luckily within 12 inches. You can re-roll that.
Oh, yay.
Please roll less than an 8. That's a 4. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this the best way it was explained to me for someone new to the game. Well, their leadership 8, they lost by 2. So they're looking to get, here's the next bracket, 6, and then anything under that doesn't really matter. You rolled, what, a 4? So you're over here. So you rolled within 6, which means you are only going to give ground. You passed your leadership check on the break. So you're not going to break and flee. If you rolled between 8 and 6, so if you rolled a 7 exactly, or an 8, you would have fallen back in good order. So you break from combat, but you quickly realize, actually, everything's fine. We automatically regroup. You go back over that way. I'm explaining it poorly. Anyways,
no, I think that's a very good explanation.
You're not going to run away, but you will give ground. So the Skaven actually push you back a little bit. So you're going to move back 2 inches. And I then have the option to follow up and keep that combat going, or try and restrain my clan rats for some other job. I'm going to try and restrain them. They listen, because I rolled an 8 with the rank bonuses. So you're going to go back 2, and I'm going to stay where I am.
Like I said, their leadership 10 at the moment.
All right. That's a pretty big unit of rats, though. Not as cheap as you think it is. It's actually very similar cost. Actually, funny, we are pretty damn near similar points cost here. I have double the amount of models, and you're double the amount of points cost. That will conclude turn 2 for the Lizardmen. We're going to go to turn, well, 2 for me. I don't have any strategy phase to do, so we can go right to the charge phase. Charge declaration. Interesting. Those Saurus just continuously failing stupidity is not doing you any good, and that was not a great combat. Let's, this guy's feeling, oh man. I wanna, you know what? This guy's feeling brave. We're gonna declare a charge at them, and I don't know if I have any other charges I want to do. Nah, we're good. We're just gonna do that one charge there. Would you like to hold or flee?
We'll hold.
Yeah, fair. I thought so. It makes sense. Clearing the charge. Symbol limiters off. First one, 8 shots. Second one, 6 shots. So it's 14 shots at no negatives this time. So they ignore the moving and firing penalty because they have quick to fire, and they expend. This is. Oh, nice. Actually, it's a little bit.
Right.
Like
so I explained this in my Skaven rundown video, which is in 2 parts because my wife burst in halfway through thinking the dog had swallowed a magnet. It hadn't. It's fine. So anyway, a rattling gun fires like an organ gun. It's basically a transportable organ gun, which is amazing. It's got quick shot, which means it doesn't have any negative modifiers to move and shoot. And also it can stand and shoot at any range. No, not at any range, at close range. Essentially, if you're charged by a unit and you're within that unit's, the charging unit's move distance, so the dice roll, you don't need to do, normally you can't stand and shoot unless you've got quick shot. It still gets -1 to hit with stand and shoot, however. It's an organ gun, so you roll the artillery dice twice. Luca explains it quite well. If you don't have artillery dice, roll a normal d6 and double the result. If you roll a 6, that's the same as a misfire. Okay, so a 1 on d6 becomes 2 shots, 2 becomes 4, 6 becomes misfire. With this thing, if you roll a misfire and a number, then you have that number of shots at a further -1 to hit, because it jams up a bit. If you roll 2 numbers, it gets that many shots, so up to 20. And if you roll 2 misfires, it'll hurt itself, probably.
One to hit. B5s. Oh, sorry, 6s because of, it didn't matter. Light cover. And 4 to wound. No! My bullets! We are going to move on to the warp lightning cannon. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go straight line.
Now, warp lightning cannon is a bit weird. It has a range of 8d6 inches. Okay, so what the rule says is you draw a line 8d6 inches from the model's base. As it's a war machine, war machines like this can freely pivot at any time during your turn. So not in the movement phase, outside the movement phase, you can pivot them as much as you like, any time during your turn. Which is a bit weird, because you could sort of pivot one way to shoot and then pivot back to somebody who's going to charge you. But it does say at any stage during your turn, during any phase at any point. So you could pivot your war machines around at the end of the combat phase again if you want to. Which is, I'm not sure they really meant that, but that's what it says. And you draw this line 8d6 inches from any point on the model's base. Anything under that line gets hit by an AP3 weapon, the strength of which is determined by an artillery dice. So anywhere from 2 to 10 strength. Misfires are often bad. One of the misfire results is you roll a random dice and the warp lightning cannon fires in that direction instead, which is amazing and very Skaven. It doesn't say that the line follows the same hitting rules as like a cannon. I think that's probably what they intended, because it's only 110 points and it's way too powerful if it literally means every model under the line gets hit. So I would use the sort of, if you think about it, as though the bounce starts at the end of the cannon and it ends 8d6 inches later, and that gives you, because you can only normally hit 1 per rank if you're in the front, or 1 per file if you're shooting in the side. So for instance, if you were kind of coming across this unit and exiting here before the 5th rank, you'd hit 4 models. Now, if you actually drew a line, you'd probably get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe. But that seems overpowered considering what they've done with the cannon, and bearing in mind it's only 10 points more than a cannon. I don't think they meant to give it that many hits.
Right through all this nonsense. And bam! This is the range. Okay, 12, 20, that was 2 5s, 22, 24, plus 4, 28 inches. Goes right through them all the way at the end.
28 is statistically perfectly average.
I can't hit the astrolift bearer because he's on this one side, and I don't want to. I guess I could have clipped my own guys, but whatever. I'll go 1, 2, 3.
He could have hit the astrolith bearer fairly easily.
The strength is 4 again. Okay. 3 hits on them. Oh, nice. 2 wounds at -3. They only have a 4 up, so 2 of them just zapped by the lightning. And 4 additional wounds on the guys in the back. 3 of them at -3. 3 6-ups. They're kind of getting bullied. You make, that's a 1, 2, and a 5. Unfortunately, 3 get zapped. Boom, boom, boom. And I think that would be a panic check, but this is where they get cold-blooded. So they get to roll 3d6 on a leadership. If you ever lose 25%, more than 25% of your unit to a shooting attack, they might say, we don't want to fight anymore. So 3d6, discarding the highest. Yeah, 1 and a 2, you're good. They hold. They don't care.
Yeah, so not Seraphon. Lizardmen get this cold-blooded. They're weirdly quite low leadership, If you look at the characters, like I think 8 is the most you get, which means they break relatively easily, which is a bit odd. However, they do get cold-blooded, which means for fear, terror, and panic tests, you roll 3 dice and you discard the highest, which means it's very unlikely that they're actually ever going to panic. Just because, like, mathematically, if you're rolling 3 dice, the chances of you getting a 1 on 3 dice is it's pretty much well over 50%. The chances of you getting a 1 or a 2 on 3 dice is you're getting on for nearly certain. So that ability with like a leadership 8 unit means it's all they're not. If you fail a fear, terror, or panic test, you're one of the most unlucky dice rollers on the planet. All right.
Then I'm going to
With
try
Lizardmen.
lightning now that they're a little bit closer in range.
At
I haven't
leadership
done
8.
any damage to them. Holy moly, this is cast on a 10. It's a damn good magic missile, though. I probably should have looked at the casting. I need to roll a 10 on the dice, but I'm a level 1 wizard, so I get to add 1 to the roll. Oh, I got Warp Spark tokens. Whatever, you'll eat a weird space rock. So I'm going to add D3 plus 1 to this roll. So I'll do the D3 first. I'm going to add 4 to the roll because of my wizard level. So I need to show a
Yeah, some Skaven wizards get free Warpstone tokens. Warpstone tokens are actually magical artifact that you can buy. They cost 15 each. However, the Warlock Engineer and the Grey Seer get D3 for free, which is cool. They add D3 to the casting roll. If you roll a 1, the model suffers a wound as well. So if you roll a 1, like a natural 1, you get +1 to cast still, but you hurt yourself. If you roll a 2, you just get +1 to cast. Okay, so you roll a D3. If you roll a 2, it becomes a 1, but it's not a 1 on the D6. If that makes sense.
on the dice. Oh, a 10! I got it naturally.
Nice,
So roll
14.
A 14 on the dice. You always get 1 dispel. If you don't have a wizard, you always get 1 dispel a turn to try and stop it. You need to roll a 15 on 2 dice to stop it, but double 6.
That's called a fated dispel.
Yeah, so you might as well try and double 6 it.
Oh yeah.
Close.
Everybody,
There.
so
So
everybody can use a fated dispel, even armies with wizards, and you might want to do that because A, your wizards might be outside dispel range, or B, you're worried about miscasting. And so for instance, if somebody rolls a pretty ineffective spell and they get like a 7 or 8 to cast, you might want to just roll your fated dispel to begin with rather than your big wizard dispel, because your big wizard might then miscast and then like not be able to miscast again or blow up. So it's just a risk reduction factor if you're in range, and if you're out of range, then that's all you can do.
For D3 plus 1, zappy lightning hits. 3 hits with lightning. It's strength 5, so we're wounding them on 3s. 1 wound! -3, so they have a 6-up save. I got a Saurus. Not enough for a panic, but we got a Saurus. After all that work, we got 1. And that is the end of my turn because I failed this charge over here. So we're going to go to turn 3 of 6 and see what these Lizardmen can do and see if they have stupid.
See, I'm just going to skip
7
forward
plus this,
to...
Another.
Yeah, there we go. To this combat. So, in fact, let's see if I can go to it later where he started to pull out his casualties. Right.
They go 2 and they go... They
So he's lost some of these guys now. Again, he's not realised about the +1 initiative thing, because what he's done is he's attacked with the old blood that strikes at initiative 6, because it's normally 3 plus 3 for the charge becomes 6. The Carnosaur is actually only initiative 2, so it strikes at initiative 5, and these are at 4. But these Skaven, because they've got spears and they've been charged, they're actually at 5. So they fight simultaneously with the Carnosaur, but just after the old blood. Now, if you had a unit champion still, which he should have, then the unit champion could then challenge the Carnosaur, because he killed this unit champion the previous turn. So there's no champion here. And that means all the Carnosaur's attacks should have gone into this unit of Skaven. Remember, last time they only actually lost 2, so there's 8 models that have disappeared this time round. 8 models that have disappeared. had he just, I think the Carnosaur and all that killed. Has he done stomps
Go
yet?
very far. They're going to break center to center, so they're going to run.
Yeah, he's breaking them. So he's done stomps. So what was his break roll?
They're frenzy, so they're immune to psychology. They're not psychology. They're
No,
immune to
he's
panic.
still just broken because he's talking about panicking.
Double one. I break.
Now, if he'd have still had the champion and then issued a challenge, yes, the champion would be dead. However, he'd still have 3 ranks because, yes, Lizardmen would have won this particular combat, but quite a lot of that combat resolution would have been overkill on the champion, not models in the unit. So Skaven really need to manage their casualties through use of champions, and that's why I think cheap warlock engineers that aren't wizards are really, really useful, because it's just another model in the unit to issue challenges. Like, cheap characters in Skaven are going to be absolutely invaluable because they allow you to take all the damage, like if a monster charges you, on one character, because he's rolled 10, right? If those if in fact another 3 of them had survived, I can't remember how much the Carnosaur killed in the end. It was like 4 or 5. So if the Carnosaur, basically, if the Carnosaur was in a challenge, he'd definitely still have that rank. They wouldn't break. They'd fall back in good order.
Most importantly, because I lost a rank. That's a big deal.
Yes.
Okay, well, things are going to happen. Because they break and they're a large enough unit of strength 5 or...
So then he looks at, all these units panicking, which, I mean, that's pretty devastating. He should definitely have moved this so it was more than 6 inches away from them. Because even if you fall back in good order, it still causes panic. So, you just need to be mindful of that falling back in good order, it still counts as a flee move, so it still causes panic to everything around it. Which, they do get right, to be honest. The other thing to bear in mind is these things don't get their leadership bonus for ranks if they're fleeing, so they revert to basically being leadership 5. So, as happens here, it flees off the table eventually because he can't possibly rally it, despite the fact that he's still got 20 of them. So 20 of them just disappear to fleeing. Oh yeah, fleeing models move in compulsory movement, don't they? Right, what's the other thing I wanted to show you that... yeah. Can I... or have they done that one already? Oh yeah, there is something I want to show you, which was this. This is a tactical thing. There. So what he's done here is he's got his rat ogres here. He's got this weapon team. Now, weapons teams are actually open order. They're not skirmishers. So what that means is when he charged this unit, the charging unit ranks up with this. What he should have done is put it like at a right angle to that unit like that, and probably over here. So the Saurus Knights, but probably actually about here if he could. Like maybe at that kind of angle, so like sideways, so they could charge it in the flank, just to block them from being able to get at his rat ogres in a charge, but also so that when the Saurus Knights charge, they have to hit it at this kind of angle, so if they overrun, they can't overrun into the rat ogres. In fact, they overrun into this wall, stop, and then the rat ogres can then hit them in the flank. And if he got the angle right, he would, still be able to shoot them and stand and shoot at them and everything. So that was just a tactical thing that he should have done. And that's, I think, where weapons teams like this come into their own, because you put them in front of your army, you can force their army to divert in the wrong direction, you can do damage on the way in. He rolled really badly on this stand and shoot, so that was a bit of a tactical error. There's also this combat here. I just want to explain what happens when they get pushed back. So what eventually happens is the Storm Vermin win the combat, and the Skaven player, Skaven, and the Lizardmen player. I've downloaded it. Why is it still buffering? Bloody thing. Right. And this unit gets pushed back.
And then you have a banner, and you're also close.
Yeah, they're just doing it now.
So I win that one by 3. You're going to be leadership 8 still. Well, down to 5. So you want to roll a 5 or less, but an 8 is okay. Oh,
yeah.
Nice. So you only give ground. I will. I'll knock you back. You know what? I'm going to try and restrain. I don't want to fight. I'm a cowardly rat. Stay away. Stay away. So I'll stay where I am, and I'll knock you back 2 inches. That will let me reform.
Okay.
I'm just going to change my facing this way.
So before he moves that.
I'll knock you back 2 inches. That will let me...
So a couple of things happen here. The first thing is that there is this rule called the 1 inch rule. So you're not allowed to end within an inch of an enemy unit unless you're in combat. So when they charge, they're in combat, so they could be within an inch of it. When they get pushed back 2 inches, they're not in combat. So they'd have to kind of get pushed back that way so that they finish their pushback more than an inch away from him, but as directly as possible away from the unit they're getting pushed back from. So they're kind of 2 inches that way. Now, if that makes sense. The second thing that is going to happen here is he's tested to reform. Now, a reform is they can redress the ranks as much as you like, actually, and do a pivot up to 180 degrees. Now, what that means, what those two rules combined means, is that the unit must be in exactly the same position. So the center of the unit must be in exactly the same position as where it started. So if we kind of draw an imaginary line going down here, to this is being the center, and an imaginary line kind of going this way, that's more or less where the center is, okay?
Reform. I'm just going to change my facing this way. So you can, it's restrained.
As you can see, it was sort of in line with these models and this bit here. So that was the center of the unit. He's actually moved it back about an inch. Now, again, the reason that matters is because of the 1 inch rule. So if you think you're 2 inches away from the unit, all you can do is pivot a little bit. You can't pivot through them. You know, you can sort of redress the ranks and all the rest. I've said that it's an infinite number of redressing the ranks. I don't think that's right. You can probably only do it once. But, you know, so you can't pivot so your corner is still touching them because you've got to end 1 inch away from them. Okay, so you can't really get this sort of... He's moved back an inch to give himself a bit of an advantage just in case these Saurus Cav manage to charge in and get through there. Like, it doesn't have much of an impact on the game at the end anyway, but that's a kind of a, you know, and you will... So that was the centre of the unit, and he's moved it back, you know, a little bit just to give him a bit more space. That's technically not allowed.
And reform, if anyone is curious. There's gonna...
Again, what he should have done is put the rattling gun there so that when the Saurus charged them, the Saurus had to overrun in this direction if they overran. They might have tested to restrain and therefore, you know, that would be fine. However, he would have got all the stand and shoots, and then, you know, he would have probably, I mean, you know, he would have probably been able to maybe get a flank charge off with this unit and maybe, do you know what I mean? And that would have been pretty bad for them.
That way, when this nonsense happens, I got it's in my front, not my side. That'll be the end of your turn 3. We're going to go to my turn 3. I have nothing to do. I do. My strategy phase, these guys are going to attempt a rally check. They do have a musician. They're too far away from my general, and the champion is dead. So, leadership 4. But they do get... Ooh, unless they're fleeing, they don't get the... I'm leadership 4, that's it. Warband, we're going to probably want this guy to get up in. He's making a check. The old march block, he's good, and then he's got 7 more inches of movement.
Okay, so what's happened here is this unit of Saurus Warriors has charged both this war machine and this character. Single characters are skirmishers, unless they're on a large target. So that's a skirmisher. The rules for the Warp Lightning Cannon specifically state that it's a skirmisher. What they've got slightly wrong here is they've charged the warp lightning cannon and said, well, actually, you have to charge that and you can't charge that as well. Actually, you could charge both quite easily here because the skirmishers have to then rank up to the unit. So you could quite easily wheel a little bit extra, say you're charging that, and then clip that as well. So he could very easily have charged both. I mean, again, it doesn't make any difference because basically what happens is he charges the warp lightning cannon, kills the crew, and then overruns into the engineer and kills it. But that he could have got rid of them both in one turn because they're both skirmishers. Weirdly, because the warp lightning cannon's a skirmisher, it's -1 to hit in shooting, which I think is quite funny. And then there was one other. I mean, again, all these things are little and they don't really make that much of a difference. It's just, I think if you're in a tight game, these things could make a difference.
And the interesting thing about Rattle, the only thing you can't do is charge. So it's good to. Oh, I can't shoot anyways. I want to shoot that guy. But the quick tip now. On protecting. So two sailboat those. Good job, little rattling gun.
And the rattling gun shoots off the battle standard
He would have
bearer.
been a skirmisher that whole time, so he's -1 to him.
And then he tries to like
Dead. That's 12.
figure out how to do the maths. Yeah.
Space rocks.
Spell. So let's resolve this combat. -1. That's all of them. There's 6 ups because of heavy armor. I saved. That's a dead rat. Boo! Going back to a rat hole. Add up because it has so much character to it. That's probably off the table. Let's see if these guys have the honor of catching me. So they get to go 3d6 because of Swiss Stride.
Oh yeah.
That is not enough. That's off by 1. That's a 9. And then 2d6 on the Saurus Warriors.
All right, they coming.
No, we're out of here. We're going back to a rat hole. Screaming betrayal. And gonna get more rats. Run from the bigger unit, center to center. So 10. Yeah, 10.
Right. So this flea move.
Ten's gonna take the center of the unit right to the edge of the board, which means.
Bugger. There we go. That's perfect. So this flea move, he gets 99% right, in my opinion. Other interpretations, yeah, I'd be willing to hear a discussion on this. So he's right. You flee from the larger unit center to center. So this is obviously the larger unit, and you flee center to center. You flee directly away from it, right? However, in order that you're pointing directly away from it, you have to pivot. So in order for this flee move to work, he'd have to pivot over enemy models. And then flee directly away. Now, I've been looking at this bloody rule book for ages, trying to figure out, because there are some rules that say you can pivot over terrain and off the board and units and all the rest. He can't wheel, is the main point. If he could wheel, that would be fine, because you'd start your move from there, wheel to there, and then run straight away. But it's not a wheel, it's a pivot. It is a pivot. Turn, wheel, pivot, pivoting. See, if you have a look on page 125, they've got all the different types of moving numbered. So wheel is 1, turn 2, move backwards, move sideways, redress, reform. Pivoting is in its own separate box, so it's not a type of maneuver, but it is. Sometimes the rules will require a unit to pivot. So actually, it's not a move that you can actually do. Instead, it spins on the spot using its centre as a pivot point, ignoring the presence of other units or terrain whilst it... Oh, no, I am completely wrong. They are completely right, actually. I've just found it, because pivoting's a manoeuvre, but it isn't. So basically, it pivots, and when a unit is pivoting, it can ignore... So that means that when you've moved a unit, so you could move a unit like a long unit in open order here, and then it gets a free 90-degree pivot around its centre. So you could have a long unit here that moves up there in open order, and then pivots through that building and basically ignores it. Rules as written. If that's the rule, then that's the rule, I guess. It does feel a bit messy. I'd have gone like directly away from the combat. that would have made a bit more sense rather than the larger unit. But the other problem with like moving away from the larger unit is if you've got a small unit on the flank here, you can run 10, but then they have to run way less than 10 to catch you, which seems a bit daft because, you know, if you were going to run away, you'd run away from the quickest thing, not the... Do you know what I mean? Like, for instance, if you were getting charged down by a bloke and a velociraptor, you'd be more worried about being caught by, you know, the velociraptor than the huddle of 10 blokes, wouldn't you? You know, in this scenario, you've got two horrible cold ones who are quite quick running after you, or, you know, anyway, but that's not the rule. The rule is you pivot and you ignore all other units and terrain when you pivot, apparently. You just can't end up on terrain. Okay, so I think that's all the curiosities of this battle report covered. I appreciate it's been a very long video. I'd like to thank you for spending the time with me to have a look at it. Go over and have a look at Mini Wargaming. They have this thing called the Vault as well, which means you can pay a sub and watch loads and loads of additional content as part of that sub. They also have, like, if you are a Vault member, I think you get loads of discounts and things. And, you know, I'm not sponsored, or, you know, obviously I've only got like one subscriber at the moment, but I'm not like affiliated with them in any way. I'm just a big fan, and, you know, I think their content's really good. I aspire to be as good as that one day. But yeah, I think this has been a really interesting, like, 1500, like Luca said, tutorial battle report, and there's been a lot of learning opportunities as we've gone along. If I've got anything wrong, please do let me know, because I don't want to get it wrong next time. So next time I'm going to be looking at, I think, probably one of a channel called Seasons of War, a lovely fella called Jordan, who does a lot of competitive AOS, and he kind of... It's an interesting battle report from a learning perspective, because he gets, like, in his head, you can see what's happening, because he's doing, like, AOS-y things and trying to do them in fantasy, and it just kind of... There's a few, like, interesting learning points, I think, as to how to play the game from that particular video. But anyway, thanks for listening to this one, and I'll catch you again soon.